It's that time, chat, for another PoE expansion reveal. And this time we're not sponsored for it. So you'll get my real opinion, right? Because that's how this works. Because we give fake opinions when we're sponsored. I don't know. Anyways, Sibber, thanks for that Prime Gaming. Let's see what they got going on. They got a lot of viewers watching this thing. I got 50,000 people tuned in. Here it is, right here. Actually, let me swap back over here so I can pull up Discord, because I think we might have a visitor from the distant past. Who could say? We'll see. The BG3 extension is still on. I didn't even turn it on. How do I turn that off? Is it off? It doesn't say a BG extension's on. Weird. Oh, that's right. There's drops today for this thing. And I don't necessarily know. Do I have access to these drops? I don't know if I have access to these drops. Oh God, the website's crashing, so I don't think I can actually link my website or my thing. I'm trying, chat. Trying to log in. Well, just wait. Maybe your link from before. I think everyone got disconnected unless you did it in the past week when the Twitch leak occurred. Because they severed all connections. Unable to verify the connection to your Twitch account. If you're seeing this message, you may need to relink your account. Well, that's what I was to fucking do it. What do you mean? And now the website's down for maintenance. Guess who's not getting drops, chat? Oh, wait. Is this 3.16? Oh, no, it says... Oh, yeah. The website's down. Literally, when I go to connect, it just... the website goes down. Great.
Hey, what's up, bud?
Hey, did you get your Twitch account linked for drops?
Who, what, for what now?
There's drops for this stream that I'm finding out, but they just took the website down for maintenance, so I can't actually link my account.
Well, where do you do it? On pathofexile.com?
Yeah, I'll send you a link in the Slack.
Oh, thank you.
You got to go there, and it also should be in this drop down. If you change your name to not be that link will not necessarily work unless you change your account name to mine, or my account name to yours.
Thank you. Awesome. I'll do this now.
Yeah, mine's just saying unable to verify the connection to Twitch. If you keep seeing this message, you may need to relink your account. Maybe it is connected. I don't actually know, chat.
So I'm logged into the website, but then where do I actually connect it to Twitch? Oh, wait, maybe let me try to go that again.
Yeah, mine kind of just errors out.
Unable to verify the connection to your Twitch account. If you keep seeing this message, you may need to relink your account. Well, I'm trying.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing as well. So I'm going to hit remove and then connect again.
Oh, you know what happened, dude?
Well, it's when
Did you change your
when,
password during the Twitch
yeah,
apocalypse recently?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that works. Your
Your Path of
password.
Exile account is currently linked to your Twitch account. Twitch account. Your account is eligible to participate in drops.
That's what I'm seeing now as well. So I think we're good.
All right, let me go to that link that you did, and I'll sub out Cohh Carnage here. Oh, 3.16 announcement?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Ooh, Dragonfly wings. Connect.
I
Great. Okay, and that just goes to this page, and it says it's connected.
Yeah. So
okay.
I guess we're good.
Cool. Well, there we go.
Yeah. I guess viewers on both ends, let us know if like you guys
Yeah, and now
don't
it says
see
connected
the
in there.
drops.
I hit the refresh thing, and it says connected.
Cool. Okay. Well, that
Okay.
should work.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, dude.
Yeah,
Am I going to
I
roll in
hope
this
it
league?
works.
I hope to. I mean, I'm doing some sponsor stuff for it. I rolled in the last league, and it was okay, but it really didn't grab me like at all, and there was a lot of controversy. So I'm hoping this league is a lot more engaging. Yeah.
Yeah, the last league was a little rough, for sure.
Yep. All right, got you added in the title there. Cool. Yeah, I think we're all set.
Cool. The wings are kind of sick. Yeah. Have they done? Is there like a dragonfly set, or is this just like a one-off thing?
I was wondering that too. Maybe it's part of the new loot boxes.
Maybe. Yeah. Can you get drops watching on mobile? I have no idea.
I think maybe wherever you're logged into Twitch you can, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping since I didn't play much last league, that this one will just hook me because I haven't played much PoE in a while. So
Yeah, same.
there are a lot of games like around this launch though, so we'll see.
When's this one coming out?
Next Friday.
Next Friday. What other games are you looking at?
The Guardians of the Galaxy comes out on the 26th, and that's also Darkest Dungeon 2 early access day. And then
Oh wow, yeah.
I think there's something on like the 28th. I forget.
28th, I think, is the Fatal Frame PC version, which should be fun for October.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Dark Pictures.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Man of Medine or
that new
whatever.
one comes out.
Madon.
Yeah, exactly. Or Man of Medine's the old one. I think the new one is House of Ashes, maybe.
Oh, you might be right.
Maybe potentially.
That sounds right to me. I think I've watched enough trailers for that. Hey, did you see the trailer for Rift Breaker?
I played Riftbreaker. I played the demo a while back. Yeah, it's a fun game. It's pretty cool.
That came out on Game Pass today. I was maybe checking it out.
Yeah, you should. It's a fun one for sure. And then I just watched the trailer for the new Battlefield game mode.
Yeah, same here.
Escape from Hunt Showdown.
Right. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. We were talking about this yesterday on Drop Frames with Jericho. I was surprised that like there was so much disinterest in that beta. Like a lot of people ragged on it and hated on it, and I had like the complete opposite feel towards it. I had a grand time with it. I played a lot of it, but a lot of people are just super down.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. It's when you're a company like, the companies that make games like Battlefield. When you pendulum swing between using your betas as actual betas and also as PR stunts, which is what they've normally done. When they do a somewhat actual beta like this last one, I mean, it had major problems. There were bugs, that kind of thing. I think it just turns a lot of people off. Their expectations aren't managed.
True.
So people were going in thinking they were going to be getting a demo because that's what they get a lot of times. And it was not. It was an actual beta with some serious flaws and issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that every time you spawned in, you had to redo your guns and stuff like that. Like that's some pretty major issues.
There were definitely issues with it.
Yeah, the ping system was just a mess, an absolute freaking mess.
Yeah, I don't even know if that ever got that to work properly once.
And pinging and Battlefield are like hand in hand. That's like one of the reasons I think a lot of people like Battlefield is the communication aspect and being able to like easily, scope people out and stuff. And it was just devoid. It was missing.
Yeah. We'll see what happens when it comes out. I mean, they got, what, little over 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now? I
There's
don't
no
know.
way it can release in that state. So I'm hoping that they have some. I mean, people were musing that it was a couple months old build. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was accurate, but
Yeah.
hopefully it was.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Are you sponsored for this co-stream, by the way?
No, I'm
Okay.
not. I'm doing. I have like a couple sponsored tweets, and I think I'm playing the game when it comes out, like I was going to anyway. But no,
Right.
this is totally just. I just want to see the league.
Gotcha.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Welcome to the work from home edition of our Path of Exile announcement
Got a
livestream.
telescope.
Thanks for joining us as we discuss all the details of the upcoming
Is that what
Path
a
of
shirt
Exile
looks like
Scourge
without the
expansion,
thing on it?
which
Yeah, what
releases
the
on
f-
October
why is he
22nd
not
for
using
PC
the
and October 27th
sound?
on console.
What?
For today's livestream, Twitch drops are enabled.
Weird.
Check out
That's-
the link below the stream for
it's
more
a weird,
information on how to
weird
claim
one.
your free Dragonfly wings. First up, we'll showcase the trailer for Path of Exile Scourge.
Maybe it's like
Then
a
we'll take a
COVID
deep dive through
precaution.
all the details of its challenge league.
Maybe, or it just got really dirty
After
and he
that,
didn't
we'll
want to
talk
show it
about
off
the
on stream, so he
improvements we're
ripped it
making
off.
to Path of Exile's
Yeah,
Endgame,
wow,
and the
okay, they're gonna
various
show a
types
lot.
of new aspirational content we're adding for you to benchmark your best characters.
Every time they
against.
do one of these, it
Next up,
changes a
we'll
little
talk
bit,
about some
and this
big
one is
improvements
like
to the
they're
passive
setting
skill tree, and we'll
expectations.
reveal
I
this
think that's
expansion's
awesome.
new skills. After
Good.
discussing some balance changes and the new guild quality of life features, we'll head into a live Q&A stream where I chat with community streamer Ziggy D. Oh, and after the Q&A, we'll post the entire expansion's patch notes. I'm
Whoa,
proud to
we're getting
present
patch
the
notes
official
today?
trailer for Path of Exile
Dude,
Scourge.
this is good.
Whoa,
Right foot forward, man.
that's a big deal.
You have any idea what you're going to roll this week?
No, not at all. But I guess I'll know today-ish.
The day the demons found our world,
Ooh, spooky.
the innocent were first to die.
Whoa.
I believe I saw boobs.
We're all banned. We got new enemy types. There's a bar on the top right. Is that the event timer?
They approach your world, your Wraeclast.
Oh, that looks cool.
That's a new
Take
ability.
the fight to them. Embrace the power of chaos.
Oh, wow.
Become more than mortal. Face the nightmare.
Wait, so is that like a hard mode button?
Dude, is he just switching between Scourge and normal?
Whoa. Those are pretty big changes. Guild hideouts. Holy shit.
Hey, look at that!
They are ravenous. They are endless. They are the Scourge.
All right, well, let's see
dude,
what...
I'm gonna have to get my Guildy Kleinix. He's gonna have to design us a whole freaking thing now. Oh man.
Let's see what all that actually means.
The Path of Exile Scourge expansion contains a lot of new content and features that we'll reveal to you today. Let's start with its namesake, the Scourge Challenge League. Upon leaving Lion Eye's watch, you're startled by a figure appearing out of nowhere, trying to escape from something you can't see. She hands you a rusty-looking device called the Blood Crucible and urges you to implant it into your body.
Hey, just put
As you
this in
play
your
You know,
body.
as
area
one
in the
does.
Scourge Challenge
Yeah.
League, the blood
At least she
crucible
asked,
fills with
right?
blood
Just
spilled by
put this
monsters
into your
you've slain.
body.
Once it reaches a certain threshold, you're able to activate the device.
Whoa.
This will instantly thrust you into a
Dude.
parallel reality, an alternate Wraeclast where some form of apocalyptic event is occurring.
That's cool.
This Wraeclast
What I
is
say
overrun by
every time
demons
about
known
League
as the
mechanics is the
Scourge.
more that they can
They're
just
powerful,
put it in with your
dangerous,
normal
and come in
gameplay,
many
the better.
forms.
And that's
The
exactly
more
what
blood
this
you
looks like they're
throw into it,
doing.
The longer you can stay
Yeah.
shifted into the parallel Wraeclast. But the longer you stay, the more damage you'll take. When the Crucible's blood runs out or you choose to shift back, you are instantly returned to your original location in our Wraeclast to continue your journey. So why enter an alternate reality to fight a horde of ravenous demons? The answer to that question is exactly what you expect from Path of Exile. You're not there to save the world, you're there to find cool items. You can put an item inside the Blood Crucible. While you are killing the Scourge, it absorbs corruption from the alternate Rayclast and focuses it onto the item. After enough kills, your item is ready to transform. When it does, it becomes corrupted and gains a pair of Scourged modifiers. One of these is a beneficial mod and one is a detrimental mod. These Scourged mods are in addition to the regular explicit and implicit mods or enchantments on the item. There are many powerful beneficial mods available that can really improve your item. The detrimental mods can significantly raise the requirements of the item, penalize your character's stats such as resistances, or outright turn off various mechanics like the ability to deal fire damage or gain charges. The goal of the transformation process is to get a beneficial mod that makes your item a lot more powerful,
Wow,
while
you can do
also
it to
rolling
the
a detrimental
uniques.
mod that doesn't hurt your build much or at all. But if you get a combination you're unhappy with, then your item is not ruined. By putting it back in the Blood Crucible and killing even more monsters in the alternate Rayclast, you can transform it a second time, potentially getting a better pair of mods that overwrite the first. Equipment can be transformed up to 3 times, and each time it guarantees a minimum tier of beneficial and detrimental mods equal to the number of times it has been transformed. By the 3rd tier, you can start to get some very powerful
5%
effects.
chance to deal triple damage. What?
The Blood Crucible works on already corrupted items, so it's possible to add Scourged mods to items that you thought couldn't be improved any further. Talking about corrupted items, you're going to need a way to modify their sockets. While in the alternate Rayclast, you can find Tainted Chromatic Orbs, Tainted Jeweler's Orbs, and Tainted Orbs of Fusing, which work exactly the same as their regular counterparts, but can only be used on corrupted items.
That was like the
Tainted
point
Orbs
of...
provide a significantly easier and cheaper
Oh,
way of
damn.
modifying the sockets on your corrupted items than the crafting bench does.
I mean, that's cool.
While it's obvious that Scourged items can be among Path of Exile's most powerful endgame equipment, it's worth considering the huge impact that good Scourge modifiers can have on your run through the campaign. In our testing, we often manage to Scourge items that are far more powerful than leveling uniques. As you slay the Scourge and other monsters while shifted, the Blood Crucible gains experience and can level up. You can allocate its skill points in its own passive skill screen, which allows it to specialize in many aspects such as unlocking additional item slots, faster item transformation, better transformation outcomes, the ability to transform unique items, and so on. It's possible to eventually allocate every single one of the Blood Crucible skills, but it requires a lot of demon slaying. Scourge's endgame is one where you control the level of risk and reward, or as we like to say in the business, it has a lot of player agency. Once you're exploring the Atlas of Worlds, you may gain the ability to place maps in the Blood Crucible alongside your equipment. When a map absorbs enough corruption and transforms, it gains a beneficial and detrimental effect in the same way that a piece of equipment does, but can also gain a modifier that changes the behavior of Scourge League in that map entirely. After all, when you combine 2 types of alternate realities together, the results are bound to be unpredictable. Maps can be transformed up to 10 times, increasing their risk and reward substantially each time. When a map is transformed a second or subsequent time, there's a chance that the new beneficial or detrimental modifiers stack alongside the existing ones, enhancing their power, or a chance that new modifiers are added. Be careful not to transform your maps too many times,
Okay,
of
this
course,
is going
as
to
they may
get
become too
nuts
dangerous
with
to
those
complete.
maps.
Yeah, I wonder, like, the issue with this is how long do you have to play this to see that type of stuff, right?
Of which 3 have been added to the
Good
core
point.
drop pool, and 3 can be found in specific aspirational content that we'll reveal later in the livestream. Ulnatol's Vow is an amulet that effectively enables you to turn any 6-linked body armor into a 7-link. Support gems you socket into this amulet apply to skills in your body armor.
That's
While
insane.
specific mods on items have allowed players to create 7-link skills in the past, this amulet lets you choose whatever support gem you want, including corrupted or
That's
awakened
insane.
ones. It's only possible to find this unique item in specific content that we'll reveal later in the livestream. The new Mage Blood Belt is one of the most powerful unique items to ever exist in Path of Exile. It permanently enables a number of your utility flasks, providing their benefits constantly with no work required on your part. This belt means that regardless of what your build is, you'll sustain your utility flasks during 100% of gameplay, even long boss fights. Mage Blood is in the core drop pool and is exceptionally rare.
Okay, there's a power
Early
item.
next year, we will release
Chase
a
item.
huge overhaul of Path of Exile's Atlas of Worlds endgame in the 3.17
Multiple
expansion.
mirrors.
In the meantime though, our October Scourge expansion introduces a bunch of changes that speed up how quickly you can set up and progress through your atlas. We're also introducing more types of ultra-challenging endgame content for top players who want to put their best characters to the test. In order to substantially shorten the length of the atlas
I think
grind,
this
we've
is a really
reduced
good
the number
change.
of regions from 8 to 4. This implicitly reduces the number of watchstones required from 32 to 16. We have also reduced the number of maps on the atlas, so it's now approximately 100 plus the unique maps. We've rebalanced the bonuses for completing content so that by the time your atlas is fully unlocked, you receive a slightly higher level of benefit than you did before.
I really
Because
like
the number
that
of
change,
regions has been
chat.
halved, so have the number of atlas passive trees. There are now 4 plus the uncharted realms. We've made each tree slightly larger and removed some less frequently used or duplicated
Good.
skills. You'll still be awarded the same number of atlas passive skill points as before.
Good.
With these changes, each map you play constitutes far more progress than it previously did.
That's
but
really
half
good
as
change.
much work is now required to reach Path of Exile
like that
Ultimate
change.
Endgame.
Yeah,
Big
that's.
time.
I mean, that's already
Big
going to
time.
make the game more fun for me.
That's huge. Yeah,
We've
that's
made
huge.
some other changes to streamline the endgame also.
The length of that
For
endgame is
example,
why I've
now
never
when you
unlocked
unveil
an
a
atlas.
modifier, all tiers of that modifier
Yep.
are immediately unlocked at the crafting bench. This applies to every veiled modifier, including the very rare ones.
Oh, that's also
damn.
Many of
big.
Path of Exile's past leagues have an endgame component that is designed to challenge the best players with the best builds. Over time, more and more of Path of Exile's experienced players have managed to defeat the game's hardest content. Our most difficult endgame content doesn't pose as much of a challenge as it once did. In the Scourge expansion, we have added a set of new aspirational content, uber versions of Breach, Blight, Legion, an extension to Delirium's Simulacrum, and a revamp of Delve.
Huh.
Breach's endgame involves running Breach Stones, which can be placed in the map device to open portals to a Breach Lord's domain. For each Breach Lord, there are currently 4 tiers of Breach Stones, and you can upgrade between them using blessings. Path of Exile Scourge introduces a new tier, Flawless Breach Stones.
I think
These
they
can't be
tweeted
obtained
this.
via blessings, but are instead found in the Maven encounters where you fight the Breach Lords in their most challenging forms. These Flawless Breach Stones require a substantially more powerful character to complete, but have rewards appropriate for their difficulty. Existing Breach Stones now have 2 random modifiers, from a pool that doesn't include build disabling ones, such as not being able to leech. And the new Flawless Breach Stones have 4 of these modifiers, which represents
Yeah, I
a
like how he
significant
said a
jump in
powerful
difficulty.
character, then it's
They
toxic
can drop
rain.
special versions of the Grasping Male body armor, which has a specific fractured modifier themed around the Breach Lord of that domain.
Whoa.
The Ulnatol's Vow unique amulet we revealed earlier can only be obtained through Flawless Breach Stones. All Breach Stones have been modified so that the
my
items
God,
you earn from
dude.
monsters are now dropped in the spiral at your feet when you complete or fail the event. In addition,
Once
rare
the item-
monsters and Breach domains drop an additional random reward types such as Scarabs, Maps, or Divination cards, with Flawless Breach Stones adding 2 additional reward types. All Breach Stones are far more rewarding than before.
Now, this type of
Blighted
content we
maps were
might never
previously
see,
our
Cohh.
pinnacle blight content,
Yeah.
but could be
Between the two
anointed
of
up to
us.
3 times to
Agreed.
increase their difficulty and rewards. In the Scourge
It's
expansion,
like
while
a
you're playing blighted maps,
70-hour
you may find a
character,
blight ravaged map.
80-hour character.
These have increased monster difficulty and are always monster level 85. They can be anointed up to 9 times with up to 3 of any one type of anointment.
Jesus.
These incredibly challenging encounters can also yield one of Scourge's powerful new
That's like-
unique items.
15, that's what, almost 20
In
lines
Legion,
of modifiers.
you
and
can combine
shit.
up to 5
That is
timeless
insane.
emblems to enter the domain of timeless conflict. While playing the domain in this expansion, you can find unrelenting emblems,
Oh, God.
which can be mixed and matched with timeless
The loot
emblems
from
for a
this has to be
substantially more
absurd.
challenging and rewarding encounter. Delirium's Simulacrum encounter has been extended, with 10 additional waves of combat. As you can expect, these extremely difficult extra waves
I like
are
how
very
he's using
rewarding,
toxic
feature
rain.
escalating chances for a Delirium boss to spawn. With each wave you play, the Simulacrum now has increasing chances of dropping Cluster Jewels, and past Wave 20 Delirium unique items. Previously, you could only get a maximum of 1 Delirium unique item per Simulacrum, but now you can walk out with multiple high-value items such as Voices. Simulacrums not only represent a lot more value now, but also an opportunity to truly test your character against some of Path of Exile's hardest content. In addition, Delirium orbs are now a lot more common, and Delirium's rewards have been improved, due to less popular ones like Prophecy and Talisman being removed
Nice.
entirely.
Anytime I hear a lot more common, I get a little excited.
We've made quite a few changes
I might be able to actually do this.
I might
The
see
first change
that.
is that we have completely rebalanced the entire thing so it's just more rewarding and more challenging at earlier depths. In general, monsters scale to have more life
Oh,
but
Delve
less
buff,
damage
that's
than
good.
before. We've improved monster skills and biomodifiers to make deeper
I wonder
depths
if
more
that's because
challenging
people
to
just
go with their
weren't
better
running
rewards.
delve.
Oh, dude.
Due
I
to
mean, I
these
remember
changes,
being in
we've
a,
wiped
it
the
was either
standard
Math
delve
or
ladders,
Resistance
but have
stream, and they were
retained your
talking about like
previous depth on your
one of the only
characters.
reasons they were
To
doing
get
it
back
was
on the
because they
ladder,
had to get the
just play at whatever
crafting stuff, and then they were
depth you're
done.
still able to
When you
complete.
dipped in, got the crafting stuff, they were out.
We've
So-
also
Yeah.
improved the delve catch-up mechanic. Previously, if you
The
entered
XP
delve for
was
the
always
first
good.
time at
Ooh.
level 90, you'd be taken to a depth that is the equivalent of tier 1 maps. Now we'll be taken to the equivalent of tier 13 maps. This means that if you want, you can
Nice! Look
essentially
at
ignore
that!
delve until the late game rather than having to play as you go.
That's
We've
fantastic.
increased the
That's
base
a
soul fight cap
huge,
from 600 to 1200.
really good
Underground
change.
cities are now more common, and you'll encounter bosses more often, including all.
Dude, man.
You can rarely find fractured items with delve modifiers.
So, okay, there's a lot of really great stuff this league.
We've
This is
also
actually
increased
pretty
fossil
cool.
and resonator
it's looking
availability
good.
A lot of
throughout
QOL
the
stuff.
Azurite mine. Fossil availability outside of delve has been reduced. All resonators drops are now chaotic resonators, with alchemical resonators not dropping anymore. We've also improved the least powerful fossils.
Nice.
The ones I'll use, fantastic.
It has been a long time since we've done a big rework of Path of Exile's iconic passive skill tree. The Scourge expansion
Now, this
includes
might
quite a
mean
lot
that
of changes, and before I
all
list them,
builds have
I
to
want
be
to
redone.
emphasize that our goal here has been to
Which
keep
is
the
probably
tree
why
as
they're
similar
releasing
to
patch
before as
notes
possible.
today.
All of your years of muscle memory will not be wasted. The tree will still feel like the back of your hand, despite our changes. While planning this rework, we examined every aspect of the passive skill tree. We reviewed and improved each of the tree's class start areas, we added new clusters of skills, improved existing ones, and concentrated power more directly on each skill's primary function. The process of doing this
Wow.
identified that many passive skills had niche stats that didn't matter to most characters or distracted away from the purpose of what the skill was trying to do. When we took niche stats away from a skill, we buffed the primary function of the skill so that it was more concentrated on one purpose. While I'm sure that powerful passive skills sound great to you, you're probably wondering what happened to all of those niche stats. You see,
Why
while
are
we were doing
some
this
lit up
revamp,
and some
we realized that
aren't?
specific
Yeah, I don't
build
know,
enabling
maybe
niche stats
notables or
appearing in
something?
specific locations on the tree actually constrained players' passive builds in quite severe ways. Players who wanted to get several specific niche stats often had little flexibility with the rest of their tree because they had to plan around getting to the specific clusters that had those niche stats in them. We decided we wanted to solve both problems at once here, to move niche stats off the main tree, but also to provide a way to get them, preferably from many different locations all over the passive skill tree. And that's how we came up with a passive mastery system. Outside of the class start locations, all passive skill clusters that have a notable passive in them now contain a passive mastery. When you allocate the first
What does
notable
that
passive
mean?
in each cluster, a mastery becomes available to allocate in that cluster. When you spend a passive skill point on the mastery, you can choose a specific stat to gain. This list is shared with all the clusters on the tree that have the same theme, so you can travel to any of them to get the stat you want. As you allocate a mastery stat, is crossed off the list for that theme. This mastery system has essentially let us
Interesting.
add hundreds of powerful new notable passives that you can access from all over the tree. In addition to the stats that we moved into masteries when consolidating
a
power
big
on the
deal.
rest of the tree, we got to come up with a bunch of new interesting niche stuff to enable usable
Dude,
builds.
whoa.
We've also rebalanced a few keystone passives, changed the locations of some, and added 6 new keystones to the tree. Overall, Path of Exile's passive
interesting.
skill tree is now a lot more powerful, with concentrated power coming from core passives.
Okay, so builds are
and a
completely gonna
selection of
change.
build-enabling
Yeah,
niche
that's
stats
why
available on
patch notes
masteries
are
for
coming
you to
out
pick
today,
between.
because they want people to mess
Yeah.
around with it for a week without playing the game.
Oh yeah, dude, this is gonna be nuts.
Path of
I can only
Exile Scourge
imagine
introduces a whole
that like the
variety of new
PoE
skill
build guys
gems
are
with
looking at
many
this and they're like,
different
oh,
purposes.
what the?
Two of them are new concepts unlike anything we have done.
We're gonna have to
before.
remake the whole
These
thing.
ones are
Yeah,
designed
but here's
to
the
immediately
thing.
create
They're
entirely new builds
responding
have
that
a lot
way
of
because they're
potential.
giddy, because that's
There's
what they
also a
want to do.
utility
Code.
skill
Probably,
that helps
probably,
characters
yeah,
stay
yeah.
alive, a variation on an existing skill gem, and 6
That's
new
what they're
gems designed
excited
for
about.
party play. Let's go through the new skills.
Oh, new skills. Here we go.
Energy Blade is a new skill that transforms your melee weapons into, well, energy blades.
It's a
A
lightsaber.
large portion of your energy shield is converted into the lightning damage that these blades deal. This opens up an entirely new melee energy shield archetype,
Whoa.
where you want to stack as much energy shield as possible to get the most powerful blades you can. Conveniently, the defenses rework in this expansion is very compatible with this plan.
I like that a lot.
Temporal Rift is a new utility skill that allows you to rewind your character's state by 4 seconds. After activating the skill, it starts storing your position, life, mana, and energy shield values every quarter second. When you use the skill again, you will reround back to 4 seconds ago. The build shown
Okay.
here uses the Forbidden Rite skill introduced in the last expansion. This skill does a lot of damage, but also hurts the caster when used. Temporal Rift allows this player to snapshot their full life orb, cast Forbidden Rite a lot, and then revert back to full life to keep casting. Not only is Temporal Rift incredibly useful in hardcore mode for
why
obvious
not?
reasons, or while exploring maps efficiently, but it also enables some interesting tricks with mana. Come to think of it, it'll be pretty cool in Delve as well if you don't mess up the timing.
True.
Temporal Rift also prevents temporal chains from affecting you while it is in use. Tornado is another new skill. As the name suggests, it creates a tornado that relentlessly moves towards enemies and pulses with damage. While the tornado is forming, you have a couple of seconds where it will absorb damage from projectiles you hit it with. Fire as many projectiles as you can into it during that period, and it'll power up, greatly increasing its damage output.
Dude, it's like that Warframe. There's a Warframe that does that.
In the Expedition expansion, we introduced a skill called Explosive Concoction. Based on player feedback, we're improving the skill so that its projectiles are thrown faster, have a higher base crit chance, and have greater speed. Now that we feel that Explosive Concoction is sufficiently powerful, we're introducing a similar new skill called Poisonous Concoction. As the name implies, this one deals poison damage rather than fire damage, and consumes charges from your life flasks rather than your elemental flasks. Poisonous Concoction scales its damage based on how much life the consumed flasks recover, which encourages you to craft your flasks to take advantage of this.
Huh.
I didn't use...
I don't think I've ever played a build that did that stuff.
It's quite rare for us to introduce skills that only work for party play. But in the Scourge expansion, we've created a set of 6 that function in similar ways but do different things. These link skills create a bond between you and a specific party member, providing a big benefit to them while they stay within range, but with the very important drawback that if they die, so do you.
Okay. That's pretty sick.
Soul Link protects your target by causing a percentage of damage they are dealt to be applied to your energy shield.
It's like
instead.
a co-op thing.
If you have built a tanky character with a lot of energy shield, then you and your target will be protected by it. Protective Link grants your target a chance to block attacks that is
you could build entire builds just for co-op with these skills.
By default, the obvious use of this link skill is to allow you to specialize in block, and then use it to protect an ally that is specialized in something else, like damage. But there are some cool
it
tricks
also
you might
means
discover.
that you have to find
For
someone
example,
that plays
the
as much as
Glancing
you do.
Blows keystone passive
Or as
doubles
little as
your
you
block
do.
chance, but changes that so you still take some damage from blocked attacks. In conjunction with Protective Link, though, your target will receive your doubled block chance, but won't receive the drawback. Intuitive Link is socketed alongside a spell on your character, and that spell is triggered from your target's location when they hit an enemy. This could be useful, for example, if you have a party member who's cycloning through enemies, and you can trigger your spells from within those packs of enemies without having to get close yourself.
That's pretty cool.
There are 3 other Link skills that we will reveal closer to release. As this expansion does include significant nerfs to Aura bot characters who stack auras for the benefit of their party members, these Link skills give them a viable, more active playstyle. Link skills cannot normally be used with your minions, but we're adding a minion mastery to the passive skill tree that allows you to use Link skills with them. However, this has a high ongoing mana cost that is difficult to stay on top of.
That might be real huge for minions.
In Path of Exile Scourge, we've done a lot of balance work improving flasks, ailment mitigation, general character defenses, and elemental damage over time. We have made some changes to how stacking auras and curses works, and have buffed most awakened support gems. We've posted about the changes we intend in the last couple of weeks, and have been iterating on these changes based on testing and your feedback. We are posting the full Scourge patch notes after the Q&A portion of this livestream, so we'd encourage you to check out the full details of the balance changes there. We first introduced guilds alongside Path of Exile's initial release in October 2013. Our guild leaders and members have been patient for a very long time, and after 8 years, we're rewarding that patience with a wave of guild quality of life features. As a game about items, the functional heart of a Path of Exile guild is its stash. You can finally control-click items into and out of your guild stash and access other features such as the drop-down list of stashes, drag-and-drop stash ordering, affinities, etc. We have also introduced guild versions of all of the types of premium stash tabs, so guilds can finally enjoy popular tabs such as currency or map tabs. While shared guild tabs are a little more expensive than individual tabs because of their server costs and development overhead, we have bundled all of the exotic ones together in a single discounted bundle for guilds that want to invest in the whole lot at once.
What's the price?
We have
The
also
low
added
price
the
of
ability to
$499.
export a
I bet
CSV
you
file
it might
with
be a
your
little
guild
pricey.
stash activity log for convenient auditing.
Oh.
We wanted to pair functional with fun, so we've introduced guild hideouts. Guild leaders can select any in-game or microtransaction hideout that they have
That's
unlocked and create a
pretty
guild
sick.
hideout based on that template.
We might actually
These
have a
hideouts are a
hideout
great
now.
place to hold guild meetings or to just have as a space
Or
for members to meet up between
interface
maps.
with the guild function
If you're
at
hanging
all.
out in your guild's hideout, you can
I
use
know,
its map
right? Do
devices that are
anything
always
guild
around.
related.
We understand that not everyone is in a guild, so there's one hideout-related feature that we wanted to mention. We have entirely removed the favor system from Path of Exile. From this expansion onwards, all hideout decorations that could previously be obtained with favor are now available to all players in unlimited quantities, both personal and guild hideouts.
That's great.
Now, there's nothing stopping you from making the hideout of your dreams. We've also added a system that allows you to filter decorations by tag
Incredible.
because there are just so many available to you
Wait, does
by
that mean I
default
can
now.
have every pet?
It does.
I have almost.
Alongside Path of Exile
I was
Scourge,
gonna
we're
say,
introducing the
mostly do,
expedition
but-
content from our last expansion into Path of Exile's core game, with a few adjustments.
They didn't talk about guild
Expedition artifacts are no
player
longer
limits,
tradable
though.
items, which has two key effects.
Yeah.
The first is that they are automatically collected as you complete expeditions, and the second is that all characters can now engage with the Calgaro merchants without having to feel that their best plan is to trade the currency away to other players who may use it more efficiently than them. It's a difficult decision working out whether to make specific items tradable or not, but we feel that on balance, this new approach will solve several problems with the system. It's also worth noting that the currency items that allow you to re-roll the vendor's inventories are still tradable. You'll start finding expeditions from Act 6 onwards. There's an 8% chance for a map to contain an expedition, and they can be further augmented through investment in the appropriate Atlas passive skill tree. As we move new leagues to core, we will replace outdated obsolete content. In this case, Expedition replaces Perandus. Details are in the patch notes.
Huh, okay. It's kind of a funny cutscene.
Bye.
While clicking on items is a critical part of playing an action RPG, there's a fine line before it becomes a chore, and we're trying hard to make sure that clicks on items come with appropriate reward. Expedition artifacts being automatically picked up isn't the only improvement we're making to reduce unnecessary clicks in this expansion. In order to make sure that each stack of currency items is worth a click, we're trying out a system where currency items drop less frequently, but in larger stack sizes. For example, Scrolls of Wisdom in the late game might drop 1/10 of the time, but when they do, it'll be in stacks of 6 to 14. This means that the click that you will make will gain you a much more meaningful amount of currency at once. We have applied this to many different types of currency items, and the effect of the system gets larger as you get further into the game.
I think that's
In
good.
addition, we've
I
had
like it.
instances where item drops happen
like it.
simultaneously, and we've made it so that items that can drop in stacks will automatically do so. This includes at the end of delves, incursions, rituals, blight encounters, breach zones, and the simulacrum. We have also applied this approach to many chests and areas like splinter drops throughout Path of Exile.
Good.
Before we move on to our final announcement and live Q&A, let's have a quick look
here's
at
how
the
you
new
can
set of
spend some
support
money.
packs that are available right now to celebrate the launch of Path of Exile Scourge and help fund ongoing development of Path of Exile. Based on player feedback, we've increased the value of the $30 and $60 supporter packs by adding $5 worth of points to each one. This means that you now receive the full value of what you spend in points,
That armor looks
with the new
badass.
sets of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions on top. These include armor sets, weapon skins, portals, shields, and helmet attachments. The Ancient Dread pack contains an exclusive pair of wings, and the Intrepid Liege pack contains an exclusive pet. These new packs each have 3 value tiers that you can upgrade between within their respective series.
Look at that portal.
Thank you so much
Okay,
for
that's
your
kind of
support.
amazing.
Purchases of these support
That one's
packs
pretty
make
great.
expansions
Damn,
like
they're
Scourge
both nice.
possible. Shortly, we'll begin our Q&A and we'll answer your burning questions. But first, we have another quick announcement to make. In the Expedition League, we teamed up with Twitch Rivals to run our first ever Path of Exile Royale live tournament. This event saw our favorite content creators teaming up in pairs to compete for awesome prizes. We're excited to announce that following the launch of Path of Exile Scourge, we're doing it again. This time around, competitors will compete alone, but we've added a unique twist. Towards the end of the match, surviving players may encounter a brutal but rewarding boss fight, which could have significant strategic implications for how they play the match.
Huh.
There's $30,000 of cash on the line alongside some of Path of Exile's best microtransactions. Tune in on October 28th at twitch.tv/twitchrivals to see who will decimate their competition. That concludes the reveal portion of this live stream. Keep an
I
eye
was
on the
asked
news
if
next
I wanted
week
to
as
play
we
in that
reveal more
chat,
details
and I
about the
told
Scourge
them,
expansion. In the meantime,
no,
these reveals are
I
already
don't
live
wanna
on
get
YouTube. If you'd link
destroyed
to your friends in case they missed the
for
live
an
stream,
8-hour
please do so
period.
and join us as we battle the Scourge alongside you next week. It's now time for the Q&A. If you have any questions about what we've shown you today, please get them ready because I'm about to be joined by Ziggy D as we answer your questions.
That was
from
cool,
Twitch
man.
Chat,
That was
and
good.
After that,
Yeah.
we'll be posting the full Path of
you
Exile
gonna watch the
Scourge
Q&A?
patch notes.
I will, yeah. It usually runs a little long, but they have some useful stuff, and it's also live.
How long is it usually?
I want to say last time they went for like at least 30 minutes, if not an hour.
Okay.
Because it's live. It's not pre-recorded.
Oh. Okay, I'll probably watch until like 4 so.
Oh yeah, I guess you would have to, because the drop period is what, 45 minutes, so it's at least 15 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty excited for the league. I feel like every change that they talked about is going to speed the process up of getting to that end game.
Not only does it look like the pass tree stuff looks interesting, there's a lot of good QOL stuff, the guild stuff sounds cool, and most importantly for me, the league mechanic looks like it is directly in line with everything that you're already doing.
Right.
So like that seems really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like the league will be really good. I just have to, I've figured out across the past probably 2 or 3 leagues now that I have to find the right build that I'm not going to get bored with and that I haven't played to the ground.
I think I might try a Cyclone build. I haven't done that in a while. I've only done one of the like big ones, so if it's still viable, I'm sure it is.
It was 2 leagues ago. I don't think they touched it last league. Cyclone's kind of always good, or some variation of Cyclone.
Yeah, maybe a Cyclone that spits out tornadoes.
There you go. A cast on crit or something.
Yeah, man.
I don't even remember what I played last league, but I remember it was not something that I necessarily was super into. I might have played Toxic Rain for the like 17th time.
Always strong.
Yeah. Yeah, that lightning blade skill looked really cool too.
Yeah, it did. It did.
It's always a gamble though, playing with the new skills. Like you never really know until you're actually playing it. It was Toxic Rain? Yeah. I think maybe I started burning. I don't even, dude, I feel like the last league for
is PoE 2 still a thing? Oh hell yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
PoE 2 is it's getting to be right around the corner here pretty soon.
I feel like the last league was like 10 years ago. So much like on a
Yes, I saw the card that lets you get a fishing pole.
personal level.
I think they're embracing the troll at this point and screw them for it. They're playing with my emotions.
If they put in like a full fishing thing in the game though, that I feel like that's an entire audience that they don't necessarily have at the moment, right? Or maybe they do. Maybe it's the same audience. I don't know.
Well, I've never really played PoE, but I heard they have fishing, so
I mean, it would get Sips and Krindor in. I know
it
that.
probably would.
I'd be super into it.
Welcome back, folks. ZD here, joined once again by Chris Wilson. Good morning, Chris. How you going?
Hey, good, thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
That was a pretty massive set of reveals this time around. I feel like you guys have been working overboard, and I think chat's reaction has been pretty excited so far this morning.
Yeah, that was
the patch notes releasing right after this presentation is a bit of a change as well. It's much sooner than usual. Have things gone really smoothly this time, or do you guys have like a new process or timeline for development now?
Yeah, we're trying to use the patch notes as a bit of a development aid. So previously what we'd have is people would make a lot of changes to Path of Exile, good and bad, and when it came down to actually explaining the changes to the players, in some cases we didn't actually have an explanation other than we feel like doing this change, which I feel is a perfectly valid way to change the game, but when you have to justify it later, it doesn't really hold water and doesn't make for a compelling explanation. So nowadays, we've taken to a process of actually identifying what are the problems we're going to solve. How would we describe that problem to the community? How would we summarize our solution to the community? And then work on the actual specifics of that. And so this has come across in the Balance Manifesto we posted. And also, it means a lot of the patch notes are really early. And so we found that it helps a lot in the past when we post patch notes, people start working on making their builds and so on. And so if we can get them out a few days before we normally do, that gives people an entire week to plan what they're doing in the league rather than just a couple of days. This is an experiment, though. It's taken a lot of work from a lot of people to get the patch notes ready for today. So I can't promise it all the time in the future, but
clearly doing a lot of of very
Do you
positive
think it'll
work in
give
this
Path of
area,
Building
which
a
is
chance
great.
to update a little earlier as
Yeah.
well? You guys have the
Everyone's
stuff
wanting
in?
that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Because yeah, I think I'm going to need the extra time with the new master system and all that. Seems like some pretty major changes is there, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's start off with Scourge. So in the intro to Scourge, one part really stood out to me. You said that a stranger asks you to implant this rusty device into your body, and then the character just does it without question. So my question is, what's wrong with our characters?
I mean, you don't have to, right? If you don't break the red pill, as it were, you can just play the league without the device, and then nothing happens. You know, you don't get to shift and so on. We were going for a bit of a shock moment there, where where the player's kind of expecting it to click nicely into the socket without any gore.
So wait, does it like burst out blood or something when you do it? Is it like an operating procedure or something?
Yeah, I mean, just imagine you're at some, dystopian future and you go to some body mod person for a cybernetic enhancement and they don't use any anesthetic and you're just getting it straight in. That's the kind of vibe we're going for here, is that
Jesus.
there's no safety or hygiene going on with this operation.
Yeah, I think like a zombie infested beach is not exactly a clean operating environment. Nice. So do the Scourge monsters drop normal loot or other unique loot as well? It's not clear in the video because I assume you guys have loot labels turned off like usual.
So yeah, we do try to hide item drops during videos because it clutters it quite a lot when we're doing promotional stuff. But the Scourge monsters drop normal items from the regular drop pool. They'll occasionally drop pre-Scourged items, though I have to emphasize that's quite a rare drop to find. That's items that have been as though you put them in the Blood Crucible for a whole cycle. That will happen occasionally. And they also drop the tainted currency, so the new currency items that will let you modify
I
size
hope
on
those
items.
currency items
And of
aren't
course, there
rare.
are bosses in Scourge. We didn't cover them at all in the live stream because we'd rather just leave that up to be a surprise. But there's special drops for bosses, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Spoilers. The item dropping, I'm sure people are going to ask about this, but what happens if items drop in the other dimension and you don't pick them up when they drop?
So you can pick them up when they drop, but if you don't, then they're still there in the main world. And this is why the character is backtracked to where they were, because it means that you're going to have to play through the regular world version of that content just like you normally would, and the items that had dropped during the Scourge encounter are there for you to pick up.
Cool.
Now, maybe if you
Good.
decide you're going to play Scourge in some place you've already played, then that might be an issue. But generally, in our testing, you're progressing forward through the area, and so you could just run forward when you're doing the Scourge encounter
That solves
and pick the
exactly
items up
what you were
afterwards if you
saying.
don't get a chance to grab them during it.
I think that's important because usually whenever there's any sort of like timed aspect to something, in this case the blood vial slowly emptying out, people might not necessarily want to loot during that time to maximize their killing and so on.
That's smart.
How does party play work in Scourge?
So the resource is shared among all the members in the party, and
Oh.
anyone can activate shifting into or out of Nightmare whenever the bar is at the right threshold. And this shifts everyone simultaneously. And you don't have to be the one that shifted into Nightmare to shift the party out of it. And then the other thing is, if someone dies while shifted, it costs a big chunk of the blood resource for everyone else. So basically, if your party are failing hard, you're going to get shifted out of it a lot earlier.
So it's a shared blood pool, but I guess it doesn't really like increase your total because everyone's spending their own rough amount. So it's the same amount of time you'd spend in solo then?
Yeah, exactly. You'll get the chance to shift far more frequently because of the fact that you've got a bunch of people in your party.
True. There's a lot of weird stuff to explore with this whole shifting mechanic. Like, what happened? How does it work with monsters being around you when you shift in? Are you just like in the middle of a pack sometimes? Is it random? Are they like spaced around players intelligently? How did you guys develop that system?
Well, this was an interesting one because we wanted to create the feeling of an alternate reality where there was a demon invasion going on. So like Delirium is adding monsters, but of course we still had to deal with the monsters that are in the current area. And I think players will find a good compromise where there's plenty of new stuff to fight, but of course it's not switching completely between two completely different realities as such. You do have an overlay of the monsters.
I feel like I'm walking into an ambush with this one.
It's worth noting as well that the enemies around you are knocked back and stunned at the point that you do the shift, so you do have a moment of reprieve from them.
That's very smart, because I was wondering, if you like just happen to shift in the middle of a pack, that's kind of unfortunate, but it sounds like you guys already have a counter mechanic to that.
So you can use shifting as a way of stunning nearby enemies if you like demons.
That's an interesting point actually, because we've had like Beyond Demons and then various other things that are similar-ish, like Breach and stuff like that. Are these guys at all connected to that, or a completely separate
These
set
are
of entities in the universe?
Yeah. There are plot implications of Scourge that go beyond the League, but it certainly is a new set of demons the player hasn't encountered before.
Ah, okay, cool. What does the unique item can be transformed, upgrade, and the Scourge passives do specifically?
So initially, we were just planning that you could scourge your rare items, and so we decided that if the player invests into it and choose to spend points, then it's probably tolerable that people can scourge uniques. And so this is the one we'll regret, I suspect, where people make some ridiculous chase uniques from their existing ones. So yeah, basically, if you choose to allocate that, then you get the ability to put uniques into the Blood Crucible and to scourge them just like rare items.
I mean, I love the idea of like modifying uniques further, but it's effectively similar to corrupting, and that can already happen on uniques anyway, so it does make sense.
There's some
Um,
pretty punchy stuff you can get here, though. So I do wake up in a cold sweat thinking about the uniques sometimes.
some interesting potential to combo with the actual unique mechanics themselves or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And like I want to emphasize with the Scourged items, right? So you watch the trailer and you see drawbacks and positive and negative mods, and you think, okay, maybe these items are usable, but honestly, the design is the following, right? There are negative mods that do not affect each build, and the way to win here is to get the negative mods that don't affect you. And so, practically speaking, good Scourged items are entirely upside, and then they turn off something your character doesn't even do. And you get multiple tries at gambling towards getting that. So it's not just a case of putting it in, ruining the item. Basically, you get your 3 shots, and it certainly creates some powerful stuff. Let's just say that.
Going back to that passive tree, how long does it take, roughly, do you estimate, to unlock the upgrades for that passive tree? And are they also shared across characters?
So they are shared across characters. It's league account, as we call it. So all the characters in that league on that account get access to it. So it's like your Atlas progress, for example. And you can generally unlock a lot of the passives on your first playthrough, right? It's not designed to take a mega grind to get what you need.
Also
but to
good.
unlock absolutely everything is possible. It's just going to take quite a while, right? Like obviously some players who play a lot will finish that within the league, but honestly it's optional to specialize in literally all the things. You'll find some playstyle that suits what you're doing, and then your friend can make the other types of items that you're not making.
Are there any that you would necessarily want to turn off, and can they be turned off, or are they all just good anyway?
I'm pretty sure they all are pure upside. I mean, for example, there's one that says that when it transforms an item, it'll exalt a mod onto, or it has a chance of exalting a mod onto an empty slot. There might be some absolute niche case where you don't want something added to that slot, but I honestly can't think of it, right? Like it's corrupted, so you're not crafting it any further. Like any mastercrafts and stuff, you've already had a chance to apply. So, unless we're adding like corrupted exalts or something like that in the future, this is entirely upside.
Uh-oh. On that note, the
Painted Exalted Orb would be the name of that item, but I don't think that's happening.
I can only imagine how much
no.
Chris Wilson,
Do
like
the
as somebody who
painted socket
fundamentally
currencies have
understands
the same
every
odds
single
of
thing there
rolling
is to about
sockets
this
and
game,
links as
like
regular jewels and fusions?
my
or are
God,
they an
dude.
improved
Well,
rate?
They have
in
exactly
a lot
the
of
same
ways,
mods as the regular ones.
when he doesn't, he
Are
will
they
ask
as
someone who
common
does.
or more
Yeah,
or
yeah,
less
yeah.
common than
Which is awesome.
drops-wise?
Different. They drop from Scourge monsters, so they're more common from those monsters, obviously, but then you're not spending all day fighting. Well, maybe you are spending all day fighting Scourge monsters if you're playing properly. There's no recipe to make these. Like, it's worth noting, a lot of existing items in the economy do come from vendor recipes. Like, we were looking at a map of Divine Orbs recently, and that's nuts. There's some sixlings getting traded in there. So it's also worth noting that the bosses drop a large chunk of the tainted orbs from Scourge, right? Like, if you're wanting to farm them, look for the bosses, kill those. And it's also worth noting that these are not meant to replace the crafting bench's Val recipes, right? Just to heavily augment it and to provide a much more convenient way of quickly changing some stuff on your items and to prevent you having to like stock up on tons of Val orbs. But that's still a viable way of changing sockets. And the cheapest way of changing sockets is to do it before you corrupt the item, obviously.
Absolutely. So on the item scourging, how long does it take to scourge an item roughly? Like one map, multiple maps worth of demon slaying?
This depends a little bit on what Crucible passives you've allocated, because of course some of them will speed up the process for certain types of items, and you might decide to instead get better items and have the process go a bit more slowly. It also depends on where you are in the game, because obviously you're killing monsters faster potentially towards the end game due to the increased monster density that we've got in higher acts and maps, and also because your build kind of comes into its own. It also matters what tier of Scourging you're going for. It's designed so the first tier of Scourging is quite easy, and the remaining ones, which are kind of icing on the cake to get the good mods or to fix unlucky outcomes, certainly take a lot longer. Like that's a choice that you have to make to do those ones. But basically, we've tried to pitch it so it's a few areas you play through in the campaign, which may become several maps or a number of maps when you're playing in the end game. I believe if you're doing like a tier 3 Scourging project on some complicated item, it might take potentially more than 10 10, 20 maps to tier 3 Scourge something, but this will come down a lot to final numbers that are still being tweaked in our last week of playtesting. We're expecting to drop this on alpha probably today with the league enabled, which will be nice because this one's ready ahead of schedule. So we'll get some good feedback from playtesters there. And please do not email me asking for alpha access. The policy is just to say no. We will be doing an intake at some stage, but we'll post that in the news, right? The only way to get in is through that news post. Don't email me. Okay. Sorry, I said it saves me like 20 hours of time later.
So do message you on MSN Messenger. Got it.
You can message me on MSN Messenger.
Nice. So I gotta ask the question design-wise. To Scourge an item, you have to put it in a separate window, which unequips it from your
By the way,
character.
chat,
Doesn't this kind of discourage
15
you from
seconds.
scourging items that you're
Brace
currently
for
using,
impact.
as you have to play for
There's
X
gonna
amount of
be
time
drop
without them, like
spam.
up to 10, 20 maps? Like
Here
you
we
said?
go. Get
Yes,
ready.
It absolutely does. And that's intentional. And this is because when you Scourge the item, you can totally ruin it, right? Like there are downsides
The chat's
to that.
about to
For
be
example,
destroyed,
if
probably,
you turn
by
off
the way.
physical damage and you're a physical build, that item
what?
is not helpful to you for a while.
I think
And so
drops
it's very
should
intentional
be
that you're
hitting.
putting
And
side
there's a
project
chat spam
items in that
associated with
window
it
to
if it
level them
worked.
up rather than the gear you're actually
Lord.
using. Because if you could level up your currently equipped
The Far
weapon
Cry
and you
ones didn't
transform it and
actually
it
put
doesn't work
text in the
anymore,
box, which
you'd
was
be really
nice.
stuck.
Really?
So this
You
forces
didn't
you
have
to be
to
using a
type it to
backup
claim it or
item.
anything like that.
And that creates strategic choices of whether, which item it is and so on, what you're working on.
It's a little bit different to regular viling and temple corrupting, where people are often taking the chest armor off their character and then disappearing it or something like that. But I guess in this case, the item
Oh, yeah, you're right.
doesn't
It's
really
just
ever
saying it told
disappear.
people to
There's
say
not like
thanks.
that sort of outcome here, unless
Damn, I
say
kinda
it
liked
disappears for your character because the
Just
mod is
got
terrible.
destroyed.
You can always trade it, right? Like if you find
It's
this item,
always so
like you're
sudden.
working on something that turns off physical damage, and your particular build is a physical damage build, but there might be some elemental version of your build.
Thank
which
you,
doesn't
chat. Thank you
care.
for
Then
entertaining
you could
me.
easily trade that potentially if you got a good upside.
Nice. I saw that there was scourging multiple items at once as an option, both the slot for a map and also you can unlock additional slot. Does it take longer if you have more items in there? Like, is the corruption split between them, or is each one its own independent thing and there's no like loss for scourging multiple items at once?
It has no downside, so that's pure the ability to work on multiple projects at once. This is helpful, of course, if you're trying to do a tier 3 Scourge that's going to take a while, or maybe you're trying to like bake a map to like 10 or something like that. Then you get the ability to work on other stuff at the same time.
Awesome. We have a few questions from the community as well on this topic now. So how quick during leveling will transforming happening, like to make sure that the item stays relevant effectively, like it's going to be ready in the next zone or something?
We do care about relevance here. So, I mean, it's an area too, right? Like it depends how much scourging you're doing in various other bits and pieces, but it's not taking you too long. And it's worth noting that if the item is improved, then the punchiness from that is going to certainly outweigh the fact it's a couple of levels under you at most.
The next
Cool.
question is kind of roughly in the area of like timed content and driving people to certain builds with things like Breach and Legion, or especially like Legion 4-ways and 5-way battles and things like that. Should that be expected with Scourge League? How do you guys consider that when designing a league that has some kind of a pseudo timer?
We have a couple of things here. So the first one is that the team are entirely aware of the fact that this league has a timer, and on a daily basis there were questions of what can we do to potentially remove the timer and change it, and we are very aware of the fact that it changes the dynamics of how the league is played. However, in its current form, and I know there's still a week of development left, which is still a long time as far as our dev goes, there is a timer in the league, and we're pretty comfortable with that. We feel it is actually possible with quite a range of characters, and the interesting thing here is with action RPG design, you implicitly already have a lot of incentives towards clear speed, right? Like if a person clears 50% faster, then they will make 50% faster progress to whatever goal they're working on, because that affects their experience gain linearly and affects their item acquisition linearly. We don't put delays on stuff so that people aren't, progressing proportionally to their clear speed. So there are already incentives for clear speed. If you make a character that's terrible at clearing and does really badly in a timer league, you're still going to have a pretty generally terrible experience in that league anyway. So I would encourage players to build characters that do clear the content as
quite
efficiently
literally
as they
just
can.
said,
And I feel
"Get
that the
good."
game is being structured in
He
a
pretty
way
much did,
so that
yeah.
players are rewarded for
So I encourage you
doing
to
more
go
damage,
forth and
surviving
make builds
better,
that
and all
don't
the various
suck.
all the various
That
positive
will improve
defenses,
your
the right
overall
direction for the
experience of
incentives
my
to go in.
product.
Pretty much.
So, in principle, we understand timers are frustrating for players, but at the same time, they're probably encouraging the right player behavior from the game, and we'd have to put in like anti-incentives in order to properly compensate against it, which we don't think is the right direction for an action RPG.
Sometimes a pretty relevant thing in this topic
Yeah,
is
my
whether
dad's
there's
saying
any sort
he's
of
not
like
wrong.
cap.
I mean,
Yeah.
Because then
I
you
mean,
get
he's
you
not.
will have a
running
better
into
time
whether
with a
it's
good
like
build.
linear increase up to a
Correct.
point and then it stops, or whether it's like an exponential increase. The good example would be like the Legion battles. for really geared out headhunter
Where do you see
characters have like
drops at?
exponentially more
It should
currency being made than other
be
characters.
up
Is
at the
there like
top
a situation
right,
here where
I think, of your
people who are
screen.
really fast will just clear
If anyone
all of
in
the
chat
Scourge
can
monsters in the map, and
help
that's the
Shut-Eye
cap, or is that never going to
out.
happen?
It's unlikely to. You don't get to spend too long in Scourge. There's a lot of monsters you don't get the ability to kill, and it is bottlenecked by the amount of blood
Click
you
your
can get from the
profile
monsters in the
icon.
main area. But this is our week of playtesting, and we have a variety of people in our QA and alpha teams who play slower characters and play hardcore or solo self-found or various modes. You know, I mean, for example, in hard mode, it's very relevant. The speed you kill monsters is, of course, lower because of the power cap there, and so this is something we are playtesting heavily to make sure that it's balanced around it.
Awesome stuff. How does this interact with things like Breach and Beyond, and other things that add more monsters to the map? Does that help you gather blood and mean that you can spend a lot more time Scourged?
So my understanding is that it does. I'm just going to quickly check with my team to confirm that. Yep, they do help you gather blood, so you can speed up your progress by doing additional content.
Their team is on
Cool.
point.
Stacks
Just like
on there.
team. Okay, cool.
Since you mentioned it, I was going to ask
last,
at the end of the Q&A.
Last
but
Q&A,
you
they were
mentioned hard
sitting
mode.
next to him off camera, so I don't know if that's the same.
Oh, what's happening with hard mode, Chris?
So we're planning to release hard mode into testing at some stage after 3.16 is released. It wasn't ready in time, and we're not going to sacrifice a day of 3.16s of Scourge's development for hard mode. And so basically the intention is at some point during 3.16, we'll work out some way that the public can test it, those who are interested, and have a bash at that. I mean, we're keeping the news out of
Did
it.
you hear
out of the
about
live
hard
stream
mode?
because it's not relevant at the moment, and
No,
it is for a
what
niche
is
group of
hard
players,
mode?
but we'll certainly be
It's hard mode.
communicating
They're
heavily
gonna make
once
a
that's
harder
ready
game.
for people to dive in.
For
Actually, I
people
kind
to
of like
play.
the idea of it
Wow.
releasing after launch, so people play regular PoE.
Is
for
it
launch
like
and
is
then
it
can jump
tied
into hard
into and
mode
rolled into
kinda
like
test
SSF and
alternate
stuff,
PoE
or is
there.
it?
I
Is
don't
that something
know.
you've considered just having be
I
the
don't know the
case,
specifics
like
of it. I just
naturally
know that
for
they.
We have to be careful that we don't want to undermine the importance
We're gonna
of
do
the
hard
league
mode.
start, if you see what I mean. Like
Yeah.
the league start is a super hype event where the economy matters and people are racing to get the best stuff and discover all the new things. And so if they know that in 2 weeks' time or something.
In
this isn't
Chris's
2 weeks,
words,
it's
in
more like
hard mode,
6, but
you will be
if people know that in 2 weeks' time
to
there's
get a
some other
blue
thing they
item
want
drop.
to play, then they won't push as hard. They won't
What
try to
the
get the
hell?
items for their character
Holy
that they would
shit,
otherwise
dude.
choose to get. So in general, I prefer to start everything at the same time.
It's actually
But I don't
kinda
want to wait
cool,
to
man.
3.17 to
That
get some
sounds kinda
testing
fun.
underway for hard mode. But they just need to view the initial version of what we release as testing, right? Like, have a go, give us some feedback, and then play it properly when it comes out in 3.17.
You've certainly hyped this mode, Chris, so I'm pretty eager to give it a try. So
No skill gems
see
from
what it's all
vendors.
about, eh?
It's fine when it probably won't be hard mode, I should add, right? Like, everyone's
Yeah.
going to get confused when we announce some mode, and they're like, is this
Oh,
an
wow.
addition to hard mode?
That's going to be hard to change the name now. You've said it so many times. Let's move on to a different topic, changing pace a little bit. The new Endgame. Previously, the initial round of Conquerors were quite straightforward, but then things got a lot more complex as you needed to start targeting specific zones and moving watchstones around, especially if you wanted to be efficient, not accidentally do content that didn't make you any progress and all of that. It was a whole thing. So how does the new 4-region atlas affect the Conqueror cycle now? Is it just like super straightforward the whole way?
So fewer regions means less complexity with where watchstones go. There's fewer options there.
This might be the one
this
change
helps
I'm
with the
most
complexity,
excited
but doesn't
for.
entirely eliminate it. Of course, it's still the system that it was. You get to choose where to put watchstones and when you put them there and which watchstones they are, but you have fewer choices, fewer options there, so it is somewhat simpler. Basically, it generally works exactly the same as before, but with less regions. And it also means there's less variance in the state of your atlas. Like previously with 8 regions, there was a lot of spikes of this place is specialized in this thing or is very high level or whatever. Fewer regions means that on average, things are more similar to each other. There's less juggling of mechanics and stuff, but all the mechanics are still there. So basically, it's the simplification it probably needed. We may have taken it too far with the first version.
This is also an interesting timing for this because next league, effectively, your new endgame, right?
Yeah, next league is the big endgame one, so that should be very interesting. And this is, think of it as an experiment, right? Like, if at the end of the day people absolutely love the simplified stuff,
So
then we'll walk in that
317 is the
direction
next
for the next league.
endgame
If
league?
it has consequences,
that's
like let's say
the
people barely played it, there's less
January
to do
league.
potentially before you max out your maps.
Oh,
in that case,
have they
it's
announced
feedback we'll
any
take into
details?
account. So
Nope.
yeah, if you want us
It's
to
just
think that
like
this
the
was a good
annual
change, just play
Endgame
this
league.
league a lot, right?
I think it's
I imagine
either
getting to
December or
the maiden
January. I think they
passive
pushed
unlocks
it to
and everything
January.
like that faster is going to be, on the whole, positive for most people. I know I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we've been examining philosophically how we want the in-game progress of an action RPG to be, and we believe that having your power gain front-loaded towards the start, and so you're making incremental gain in the diminishing returns part of the end game is probably a lot better. I mean, that's how it works in other action RPGs,
Yeah.
right? gets to the point where the rewards are smaller and smaller and spaced out further and further. And that is probably better than the player having this huge power gain dangled over them, which is just a real pain to actually get to because they want their character to be finished.
Oh, I just got a Twitch drop. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Like,
But they do
most
work.
of the yes, most of the new Uber tiers of content are gained through a drop, like the Blight Ravaged maps. How aware are you guys pitching access to the new aspirational content in which we can test our characters?
Moderately rarely. But we want it so that players who want to engage with that kind of content can access it. And it's designed to be difficult and rewarding, right? Like, we want it to be valuable and hard to get to because of the rewards. They're pretty nuts. And we
You see
also
the
want it to
labyrinth
be valuable
changes?
and hard
I
to
did
get
not.
to because it's difficult. And that goes back to the old Maelstrom of Chaos lesson that we had.
From last
where
league
if
or
you
this
give
league?
people unlimited access to any tier of difficulty,
Last
they
league
pick the
I
highest
did.
one because they see it on Twitch, and then they complain relentlessly that their character that's barely got to maps isn't able to do the highest tier of them. And so we've learned that the more difficult something is, the harder it should be to obtain access to that.
You don't
Having
have
said
to do
that, we're
trials?
still trying to give these out as often as we can, right? Like, we'll have conversations where we say, for every X of the normal Uber content you do you get some of the next tier of Uber content? And those X numbers are relatively low. It is designed that a person is going to get to it. They're not waiting the whole league to see it. They'll get to play plenty.
Did you see the change
but
about
it
trials
still
for
is gonna
lab,
be
by the
something
way?
that you have
Because I
to,
didn't. My chat just told me.
Trade for with
No,
some
what they
value.
do?
You no
I
longer
guess
have to
design-wise,
find the
the
6
ultimate
trials. You
option
can just
is
do it
to
with
have
1 key.
someone have to fight their way to a certain tier
Really?
rather than just
Yeah.
skipping it
Oh.
and then complaining
That's
they
like
can't get it.
incredible. You just need one offering.
Delirium Simulacrum is actually a good example that you guys added 10 new levels. There's nothing to gate access to that, but in order to make it to level 30, you actually have to make it to level 30. So when you guys philosophically want to use that versus making the access rare?
It comes down to a lot to whether on what
Yeah,
stage of
for
it is
Uber.
tradable, right? In the case of the Simulacrum, the base thing is tradable, but in order to earn the access to the final waves, you need to, of course, fight your way there. In the case of a Blight Ravaged map, obviously you have to be, succeeding at Blight encounters in order to get those. The problem is that people do succeed at Blight encounters.
Those
People
are only in
typically
yellow or higher.
pitch Blighted maps at a level that they believe they can do, otherwise they're wasting resources. And so we do give it to you proportional to your success in those encounters. To an extent, you're fighting your way there, but it isn't guaranteed that finishing a Blighted map gives you
Somewhere
a Blight Ravaged
Dan's
map. Instead,
gaming
it
is
might
fist
take more
pumping.
and this is me literally picking a number I haven't seen, but say 10 or something like that. It might be lower.
This one might be a detail you don't know offhand, but where do you gain access to Blight Ravaged maps? Like early level is possible for them to drop, or only high level?
My
Like
understanding is
tier
it's just
Blighted
higher
maps?
tiers, but I'm going to be told in a few seconds what tier that is. I'm thinking 14 based on some memory from a past life. Yeah, tier 14 plus.
Nice. Okay, cool. I like that. That's fun. Tier 14 plus Blight maps are fun. Delve specific mods can now drop fractured and locked in place, which I love, having recently gone through crafting a Spectre chest. Is that always the case, or can they still drop as non-fractured versions too?
It's very rare for them to drop as fractured ones. I should emphasize, as you've seen, fractured ones are nuts, right? If you can lock on that +1 scepter thing, regardless of what you do with the item, you can have your specters. And so it's very valuable. This is a slim possibility of aspirational reward you can get from that content. It is not dropping like candy. No one really expected it to be anyway, right?
I actually kind of like that because it means that on the market there'll be cheap Spectre chests that are terrible, like just the Spectre mod, and everything else is complete garbage. And then there will be the ones you can craft that are god tier.
Right. It's like the grasping mail situation. People were doing complicated things with grasping mails in order to get fractured mods on them and so on, and we provided an alternate way to achieve that now. But it still requires a bunch of work. Like, the intention is that fractured mods are, to some extent, kind of the pinnacle of crafting reward because you just get a guaranteed thing that you can plan around, whereas there's so much RNG in the rest of the game. So they're not going to be ever easy to get.
I quite like those rewards, those fractured item drops as exciting. Like you said, as aspirational
Chris
rewards
is
for
looking
high-end
over
content.
at.
Speaking of the rewards, there's the Ulnatol's Vow, which is obviously a drop for the Uber Ulnatol. But there is probably not enough uniques in your revealed amount of uniques to be a drop for each of the Uber Breach Lords. So what sort of rewards do they get? Is it planned that they'll get stuff in the future? What's kind of the deal there?
So my understanding is that the Uber areas don't all necessarily have their own new custom rewards. They can, in some cases, give much better chances of existing ones. I'm just checking with the team. So Mark clarifies that the Ulnatol's Vow can drop from each of them. It's not just Ulnatol. Like, to some extent, this
Oh.
is the case of the designers saying, let's put an amulet on the Breach Lords, and someone saying, Ornatol, he's a Breach Lord, let's give it that name, and it's not really cohesively seeing how it communicates to the players. But yes, all of them may drop his Vel.
Okay.
Not to critique the unique designers, but why is the Ulnatal amulet purple? That was really confusing because when I was making my video, I was like, wait, I thought that was a Chayula unique because it was purple.
That's a great question, and this will come up in someone's performance review. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, what have I done? Oops. There's been a couple of other Scourge questions, just to rewind a little bit, from chat that I thought were pretty good. Can you Scourge other item bases like jewels and flasks and weird stuff like that? Or is it just kind of basic gear?
I believe it's equipable equipment, not flasks, and that includes uniques and maps. Can someone clarify on my team, please?
Yeah, jewels would be the interesting question then, because those are like kind of equipable, I guess.
QA team scrambles to make sure it's not jewels and flasks.
Not jewels and flasks. Got it.
Thank you.
Awesome. There was something else, but I've forgotten it, so maybe we'll come back to it. Back on the passive skill tree this time, can the new passive masteries be changed at will after being allocated?
So they get respec like any other allocated skill because they're allocated like any other allocated skill. It's just that they appear.
I have to
once
go
you've allocated
fish
the
a
notable.
cat
So
from
you
the
path
garage
to the
real
notable,
quick,
put a
chat.
point in it, and then you can put a point in the mastery. Choose which one it is.
I will be right
and
back.
if you want to respec it, you just respec it. Then you respec the notable and pull out of the whole cluster if you want to.
Okay, cool. And just to be clear, getting multiple notables in a cluster that have more than one doesn't give more masteries. It's one per
Oh Lord, good
cluster,
luck.
right?
The
I might
first
be gone when you get
notable
back.
in each
If so, it's
cluster
been a pleasure.
will unlock the mastery. And for clarity here,
See you, bud.
I hope it was obvious from the explanation in the video, but Fire Mastery, for example, has a bunch of options. You can get many of those options by just allocating multiple clusters and pick a notable in each one.
Awesome. I really love this system. Super excited about playing with it. If you anoint a notable, then, especially relevant because you guys revealed an amulet that lets you anoint 4 anointed notables, does that give you a mastery point as well?
No, you must actually physically allocate a notable on the tree to unlock the mastery that's near it.
Damn. Thought I got you with that one. Does this new system make it easy to expand and change the tree more in the future now as well?
Well, there's a few consequences. It means that we don't have to worry about where we scroll away niche stats. Like previously, if there's something we wanted to add to the tree, we'd have to pick a place for it. And that means that all the builds that want that now have to involve that place, which takes away from what they're currently doing. It also gives us these lists we can put stuff on, right? Like, a plausible content update in the future could be that we've added a thing to every mastery and find a new cool thing for it to do. And that's an easy place for us to put stuff that doesn't really disrupt builds and so on. Because one thing we've learned with Path of Exile is people want options for making their builds different with each league, but they don't necessarily want everything they've learned to be thrown in the garbage, right? If the build guides are entirely outdated and it's a fresh start of learning the game again, there's people who are like, I'll skip this one, I'll wait for a build guide next time. And so having everything feel familiar is actually very important. And that's why with the tree update here, it's still really the same tree. We spaced it out, gave it a cosmetic coat of paint, put some masteries in there, and powered up the non-mastery passives a bit, but stuff's broadly in the same place as it was before. And that means players will be able to come in and do basically the same build as before, they just have a lot more flexibility, and the second version of their character might be more powerful.
It looks and feels, just from seeing it, really different though. Like, not like you said in terms of layout, but this seems like a pretty big fundamental change to our character building process now. This mastery system opens up a lot more flexibility over where we go and things like that now too.
That's correct.
We got a lot of questions from chat on this topic. Seems like people are pretty curious about it. How will Timeless Jewels affect passive tree masteries? So do Timeless Jewels affect passive masteries at all?
They do
change
not.
them?
Yep, my teams say that Timeless Jewels do not affect passive masteries, just the notable.
Okay. Is this kind of a buff for Timeless Jewels then? Because previously you might have been losing, if you're, say, using a Vile Timeless Jewel, losing an effect that was on a notable, but now that effect is on the mastery tree and you can still get it.
Because we've moved the interesting effects to masteries, then yes, the notables are just more punchy in terms of regular stuff, which have now been re-rolled, of course, and you'll get the ability to allocate the mastery still.
Awesome. A little bit of a buff there, it seems.
It's worth noting as well, with the spreading out of the tree that we've done, we've adjusted radiuses of all the relevant jewels and so on, so that it's obviously not a nerf to those.
Someone's curious about is there like a hue or color change on the passive tree overall, or is this just a stylistic stuff for the
We
video?
have revamped the art of the passive tree and added new effects and textures and so on because the previous one was getting, older than many of our stuff's children.
Oh my. What's the passive point budget like now? Seems like you need to use a passive point to get the small bonuses as well. Is it going to be
I'm
worth
back.
it?
What'd I miss?
Kind of summary of the
Well,
question.
we have buffed the things we took small bonuses off. So previously, where you'd allocate a notable and get a certain amount of stuff, you're still getting that much value from the notable. It's just that the main thing it's granting you is now bigger than before.
Oh, to
And whether or
co-raid?
not the small bonus is worth a point, I mean, I think it's pretty clear
welcome
from my
everyone from
testing that people
Co-Stream.
want all
Sorry
the small
about that.
bonuses they can get, like they're like a bloodhound.
I had to go
for those
chase
things.
Luna.
So yeah, there's more choice of what you can spend your points on that are impactful, and that may mean that you have difficult choices of what to pick, and you want to play multiple characters, or could play this character
Yeah,
multiple
Luna's
ways,
the one
or
that I gotta
you'll do the
chase.
side quests for skill points now, or whatever it is. But no, we haven't increased the budget for passive points.
What's the decision about the in-game tree planner that's been kind of tested / talked about in the past?
We haven't included it yet. It could be done. It's kind of working. It's just kind of bad. Like, it needs some work, right? Like, it's. I'm not happy with it. We have quality standards, right? We'll get it out there. Here's the thing, right? Like, we made it
Wait,
for
what
the
are they
Chinese
talking
version,
about?
and they've got all this cool stuff it integrates with. Like, they've got this thing where when you kill Hillock, it goes, right, here are 3
I think some
suggested builds you
co-viewers
could
came
pick.
over,
Do you want
yeah.
to play this one or this one or this one, and it kind of guides you through that. Now, that was mostly because it was a new service for them, and the players needed to learn how to play. Like, our players would not benefit really from being handheld through those builds. And there's a lot of good resources and build guides and so on. So with the tree planner there, when you've selected a build, it gives you the ghost imprint of that build on the tree so that you kind of know where you're going. Now, we wouldn't have that functionality here unless we had some kind of thing. And I've got this dream here. This is me ranting now, where build guides on the website are consolidated in a better place. So when you put a build guide together, you have the ability to like choose all the bits and pieces with the user interface, but it includes snapshotting the tree at different levels. So you'd say like, here's the order you allocate the stuff. And then when someone imports your build guide from the forum into their character that they're playing online, it shows the ghost of the tree using the planner there, and all of this kind of fancy stuff. Like, you look at the quest reward window and it highlights the quest rewards that are relevant to the build guide that you've selected for your character, blah, 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 blah.
Sick.
That would be nice. However, because we have this grand idea of doing that one day, we haven't just turned on the thing we made a while ago. I like the way that the developers who would have to implement this are sending me messages now.
No, stop.
Yeah. That's just me thinking of cool things we could do, which
I would love for that.
We have plenty of cool
It
things.
would
but that's
change
the
the
reason why we
entire
haven't turned
game,
on the
chat.
passive planner.
Got it. Yeah, it's like you've painted a picture and we're all like, oh, it's really cool. We think it's cool. We're going to put it up in our living room. You're like, I think I can do a much better picture. All right, then. Let's move on to skills. Does Temporal Rift with Cast on Death work to save your character?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I was distracted by people freaking out.
So as soon as we saw Temporal Rift, it's like Cast on Death. It rewinds time. Does it work?
Okay, we've got a clarification from the team. It's a reservation effect, so it cannot be triggered.
Yeah. Shredded. Awesome. So the new Link supports cause both Link characters to die when one does. And they can be upgraded via passive masteries to allow linking minions. If minions die, does that also kill the linked host?
So to clarify, it doesn't cause both people to die when one does. It causes the caster of the link to die when the target dies. So you want to help your friend. If he dies, that screws you over. You can't help him and then kill yourself, right? Like, it's not used for grieving. So I understand that's 20% of our community that were very excited, especially in hardcore. But no, you're opting into having your character exposed by using links. Anyway, the minion question. Yes, if your minion dies, then you also die. But that's why it's not a default behavior, because otherwise someone's going to misclick and target a minion, and then the minion dies, because they like to die. Serving the master and all. So, yeah, you have to specifically choose to opt in to being able to target minions, and then it's your responsibility what you click on.
I can't wait until someone accidentally targets a skeleton in hardcore instead of the zombie or whatever they were trying to target.
It'll happen.
I guess that also prevents the fact that it only is one-way mutual killing. It prevents a situation where one person dying in the party wipes out the entire 6-man party due to a chain reaction of death.
Yeah, it'll just be that when someone dies in the party, the support character gets killed as well, and that's how it works now.
That's much more reasonable, but at the same time, it would have been kind of hilarious to see. Yep.
Is it possible to make
All
a
right.
minion that
answers my
never
next
dies?
question then. Oh my, these are some complex questions here. Okay, I'm just gonna skip those.
Okay, they clarify that everyone can link to everyone else for mutual destruction, which can happen. Like, it's basically this ultra blood pact.
Okay, so you
Like-
can link to someone, they can link back to you, and then
Imagine
you'll
some
have
kind of
mutual
group that
destruction.
decides- Imagine you play group found, and your goal is to link to everyone in a giant grid, so that if one party member dies, the whole party's wiped out and the hardcore run ends.
That's actually hilarious
That'd
and
be
makes
fun.
for, I think, a fun like challenge mode to play with your friends or something.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Everyone links to everyone else. Although
Now
it
Chris
sounds like
is
they drain mana
scheming.
as well, so that
He's
probably
having
would
the
be
brain.
kind of challenging for a lot of builds.
The
I
brain
imagine.
moment, chat.
I
But
think people like challenge, right? Like, that
yeah.
makes it an interesting stream to do a run through like that.
I like it. Yeah, absolutely. So with the rebalance of curse and aura stacking, but the introduction of powerful but active and limited support skills like these new link skills, where do you guys hope to see support characters in terms of power? What's the end goal there?
Well, the new reality with linked skills, it's far less exponential than it was before. Like, previously, a single support character really ramped up an entire party. Having said that, it's still a big boost in power. Like, if you're playing in a party, one of your party members using link skills will definitely benefit what you're doing. They'll contribute far more than, a fourth character cycloning or whatever's going on with your friend group. You also get to best choose who benefits from each type of link, right? Like, it's far more interesting than jamming all the auras on and running into the middle. You're specifically saying, I want to protect you and trigger spells from your location and so on. And it's worth noting we have 3 more link skills that are ready to go that we haven't revealed yet because teasers.
Based on the recent manifestos, people have been calculating the damage over time builds and coming up with lower damage numbers when they factor in the changes to elemental equilibrium or loss, as well as overload. Was this the intention
getting
for
into
these
the
builds
skinny
to effectively be
questions,
nerfed,
chat.
or is there more damage now to be
This
picked
is
up
the
elsewhere
thick
that hasn't
of
been
it.
revealed yet?
You can get additional damage on the passive tree, the masteries, and items.
So where do you guys kind of pitch the math then? I have to imagine you've run the calculations that builds are going to be roughly the same, a bit higher, a bit lower.
Ideally similar to what it was before. One of the problems with damage over time stuff was there was just fewer ways of scaling it compared to some other options. So they've made sure there are actually like new item mods you can specialize in. There are obviously, passives and masteries you can pick. It won't be as high as before if you ignore that stuff. Obviously, you do need to specialize in what your character is doing for it to do that thing well, but at least it means that it's more fair compared to other things.
It kind of raises the question then, especially with gear. When is it appropriate to increase the reliance on gear to balance a build?
We feel that's appropriate when we had some things to the game like Caustic Arrow a very long time ago, where there just weren't support gems that really worked with it. It's just Caustic Arrow, it just does damage. And everyone else has to use support gems. And that's the kind of case there where we see something like that. And to some extent, damage over time was a bit like it, where it isn't as supportable as the rest of the game. And that's the case where we feel it can go on gear, so those people have an option to actually invest in doing what they should be doing.
Okay, all right. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out then. I've got a couple questions from chat. Can you explain in more details how the evasion changes will work and how the entropy system will now feel?
So the goal with the evasion changes is that evasion as a core thing is more punchy than before. With regard to entropy, entropy is your friend. Entropy smooths it out so that you don't get
What?
two
No,
hits,
it's not.
right? But getting 2 hit is the problem. No one really ever gets 1 hit, right? They do have enough survivability. The problem is quick successive damage. And so previously, before entropy existed, you'd unluckily get hit, fair enough, you can deal it, then you die, because the second one comes in. With the new one, entropy guarantees that will be spaced out. And so that helps evasion characters a lot. Whenever we see people asking for entropy to be removed, we wonder what's going on there, because this is a de-RNGing thing that smooths things out substantially and reduces, it substantially reduces the chance you're going to have the second hit come in to kill you before you get a chance to react to the first and heal yourself. With the evasion changes, though, characters using evasion by actually just putting evasion pieces on will have a lot better time than they previously did. We understand a few characters were stacking dodge to combine with it. This was too powerful, and people said to us, we want Path of Exile's defenses to be sorted out. And we evaluated it, and we saw that the vast majority of players were really struggling to get the defenses they needed. And some players were totally fine with various niche bits and pieces, like, using dodge, stacking with evasion, and having blind at the same time. And so in order to make it so that all the defensive options were good, we had to look at the outliers and sort them out. Because if we kept those working exactly how they did before and increased everything else, we'd have some immortal characters and everyone would have to play that. And so we've tried to improve it for 85% of players, and the few percent that were using things that were slightly above the curve had no major survivability problems before. So yeah, it sucks to describe any form of nerf, but this is intended to be an expansion almost entirely full of buffs, and we do believe that the situation is better for almost everyone than it was in the past.
It's worth noting, I guess, now that acrobatics has changed, block is more of an option for evasion builds too, because there's not that block penalty anymore
Yeah,
to contend with. Which
we
block evasion
believe
is pretty
people
strong.
will. Once people try building their characters around the new defensive stuff, they'll have a great time. Like, it's easy to look at how the character was built before and say, I am hurt in some manner because it's my old thing, which is now the wrong shape for the hole, is incorrect. But when you actually look at the shape of the hole and build something right for it, it's quite defensive.
Got it. Does the new tornado ability gain speed on projectile bonuses or anything like that?
Oh, we're good.
My understanding is
cadence
that
as
hitting it with projectiles will cause it to deal extra damage based on how much damage you dealt with those projectiles of that damage type. Rory clarifies it gains speed as it levels, so you do get benefits there, and of course you can support it and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, I think basically the question is because like it looks awesome, but it's like maybe a bit too slow, is what people are noting from the video, which is the same thing I felt when I
It
first
reminded me.
started.
I've been watching a lot of mods.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
reminded me
It
of
starts slow, so you can hit it
Diablo
before
2,
speeding up when you first cast.
Wind Druids.
Okay. Seems like it might be more of a boss killer in that regard then, rather than a clearing skill. Can you specify what things can get reverted in time? For example, souls from bar skills, combat buffs, skill cooldowns, or is it just HP and mana?
It's
Yeah, in Diablo.
HP, mana,
Diablo 2
energy
remastered.
shield, and player position. It is very interesting to consider adding more to that list. There will be people crying at the very thought of that because it has implications to revert other things like charges and souls and so on. However, it's something we could look into in the future. It'll certainly enable some interesting builds. Probably dumb, broken ones, but that's kind of why we're here.
Chat's calling out ward. I assume it also includes ward, as that's a core defense.
That's a great question. Chris
Other
looks
people in
disappointed.
call. Hint, hint. Other people
Someone-
listening in.
Someone adds ward to a function call in the code.
Just chat.
Yeah,
chat,
we'll deal with that if it needs dealing with.
It's all right.
And if it doesn't, there'll be a reason.
Cool. On guilds, does the guild hideout map device serve one party at a time or multiple parties somehow?
So you can
Oh.
see your portals and your party's portals. The way it works is if you have a party leader with portals, then you'll see those. And if the party doesn't have any portals, you'll see your own ones. And
That's
you can also
awesome.
promote people in your party to become the leader if the leader was the wrong person. So there's been a bunch of work put into that.
That's really
We've
good.
also
It's-
got various
it's,
changes behind
like
the scenes to how portals
instance
are managed, so you're
portals,
less likely to lose
but
them.
not really.
There's a bunch of work that's gone into improving this stuff. But
We might
basically,
actually
the goal
use
here
our-
is that
our
you can
guild
sit in your guild hideout
hideout.
forever. And aside from trading with randoms, you can do anything you would normally do in your own hideout. Obviously, you can't just invite strangers into your guild hideout because there could be super secret guild stuff being discussed or having a party or something. But aside from trading with randoms, you have to go to their hideout to do that. You can use your guild's hideout as your own personal hideout, practically speaking.
There's got to be
I'm
a
super impressed
thing
with
there.
the portals working based on parties.
No
multiple
ERP
people can use
chat.
the same map device. I did not expect that at all. Since you brought up the trading thing, though, it really like raises the question once again about whether you guys are still considering cross-instance trading.
At this stage, we're not going to change the trading system to allow cross-instance trading. It's a major re-architecture, and I don't think it's worth it.
All right, fair enough.
Huh.
Will there be additional guild slots available now that people will want to
There
build
we go.
guilds?
It's kind of funny because when we looked into guild slots, the conclusion we have is we will not reduce them at this stage. Now that may seem like a counter argument, but thing is, when you join Path of Exile, it tells you the status of all of your guild members and all of your friends, and various information gets sent around. And when you've got a maxed out guild and a maxed out friends list and all of this kind of stuff, there's a lot of data. Like whichever router that's going through kind of groans at the 8 kilobytes of data in that one packet, basically. And things get unhappy. When we do
8
simulation of
kilobytes?
heavily gilded, heavily friended users all being incredibly
Oh,
active, because of course
no!
most users aren't. But when we do the simulation, the realm has poor stability. And so we believe that this will be fine at current settings. But the reason why we kept it and the reason why we're not improving it is because things get exponentially worse, especially given the more people will be in guilds now after these changes.
It's actually a lot
So
of
we're
data.
going to
I know. I'm
obviously
just
try to
memeing.
improve this, like we want bigger guilds and so on. But it's not going to be quite the same as other games where you just make the biggest guild in the entire world that has half the server
Damn
on it.
it.
Like, I get that streamers have huge communities and so on, and they kind of can't be guilded here. It's more for groups of close friends. And we're still allowing hundreds of people in guilds, I believe. What is the
Yeah,
cap?
what is the
200,
cap
300?
now?
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's probably not changing for a little while. But ideally, we'd like to. It's just that we're very aware of the fact that, this is the kind of thing that
What
causes
is the
problems
cap?
on launch day.
I don't know.
So we'll try to avoid problems on launch day this time around.
Will people be able to contribute points to the guild leader to get upgrades for hideouts and stash tabs?
Yeah, it's exactly the same system that's been there for a long time. Basically, you can give points
don't
to the
even know.
guild and it can spend those. So previously, it had the ability to buy slots and regular stash tabs. Now it has the
250?
ability to buy hideouts, the
not
microtransaction
bad.
versions of decorations if you want any, and all the new types of stash tabs.
See, I didn't even know that was an option because it's like barely touching the guild system before. It actually seems really appealing now, so well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like previously, it was just so sad that the guilds didn't support the nice stash tabs, right? Because I mean, you had some boring storage and you couldn't control click and control out, and when server stability issues were happening, you lose items, and that.
The Path of Building community member that like runs Path of Building updated his Discord message, and he just typed, "I quit, lol."
Class. I mean, people cynically say it so that
That's
we can
what
sell
that link is from
microtransactions.
Kaizmon.
And I get if you've got a guild hideout, then maybe you can see the microtransactions for your friends and stuff. But for the time being, we'd like it so people continue to load into towns.
All right. Can we enter guild hideouts if we play solo self-found? Are the guild hideouts cross-league?
Didn't they hire that guy? At
I'm
GG?
completely blanking. I don't know. Whatever the current. I'm going to check in on that to make sure it's done correctly.
We can come back to that in a second then. These are some more questions from chat.
When
When
There's a
will
clarification from one of our devs. In a party, the guild map device will show your party leader's portals, but not your own. So if there are party leaders' portals, then you'll see those, but you won't see your own ones if you're in a guild.
I don't understand. Okay, I'm sure other people do.
It's been well thought out and well tested. It should be fine. And if there's
Okay.
problems with it, just let us know.
I trust you.
That's how I feel about this feature. It's complicated.
Okay. Question mark.
Dude,
When-
I love that
When will the
ability. How
guild
that
stash
looks.
tabs
That looks
get
so
added?
cool.
Can you add them early so that we can set them up before league starts? Someone asks.
We do have to add them at league launch, and that's because we did an insane amount of re-engineering to make this guild stash stuff work better. Like, the control clicking stuff was a real pain, but that's in there now.
All right. Is there a maximum number of players allowed in the guild hideout, and will it lag with too many? I'm guessing that's just the cap of the actual guild.
Yeah, my understanding is that it caps at something like 24, if someone can clarify. Maybe there's a hard cap at 32 and a soft cap at 24, like towns, but you can get multiple instances of the guild hideout, I believe. 32 per shard, and I'm pretty sure you get multiple copies of it. Now, this does mean that if you were going to potentially want to have a 200-person guild meeting, you kind of have to do that over Discord or something, and you're kind of all in different versions of the hideout, and you can
That
pretend
kinda
that you're
sucks.
seeing your guild leader talk. But practically speaking, you'll be around guild members in your hideout whenever you're there, and it's very rare for a guild to have 32 people concurrently in their hideout at the same time during regular gameplay. Like, it's going to be one shard unless you're having some crazy meeting, and then there's people everywhere anyway. Plus, imagine 32 players decked out of microtransactions and stuff. It's going to have some memory requirements and affect performance if it's higher than that. And, the same reason we didn't turn microtransactions on in Royale.
Yeah, it would look like my
Are
hideout.
there any? We're moving into some kind of miscellaneous mixed questions now, so hold on to your hats. Are there any changes coming for Harvest?
Got some minor stuff. I mean, not what players want, but we're nerfing Blister Lords, so that's not in the patch notes because it's not done yet. So we're intending to nerf Blister Lords if we remember by next weekend. And we're combining the Alch and Chaos recipes together. So the ones that will either Alch an item and do an effect or Chaos it are just going to be the same thing now, nice and versatile.
Nice.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
good change. What's happening with Royale? You mentioned the Twitch rivals, but for the regular Royale running, any plans?
So Royale was a lot of fun for a lot of people, and that lot of people tailed off quite a lot throughout the league. And then you start to get the matchmaking problem where you have
That's
takes
what
like
I
50 people to
figured,
trigger
yeah.
a game. So you have 50 people interested in playing, but not quite at the same time, so you don't get a game trigger, and then when the game's not triggering, they don't bother coming back because the games aren't triggering, and so you've got enough population that you could get games triggering if everyone read each other's minds and when to play right now, but they're not in there at exactly the same time. And so it was hard for games to trigger in the latter half of the league. And I mean, I appreciate that this is probably because people would happily be playing the main game and enjoying whatever they're doing in Expedition rather than wanting to play Real at that exact moment. But it does mean that we would be better off using Royale
Shop
as a
low
special event
prices
where
and
they're
low
slightly
FPS.
more interested in playing it. Like if we say, hey guys, it's been a while, we're going to be running Royale this weekend or something
My
like that,
computer ran
then
it
there'll be
fine.
slightly higher interest, and that means games will trigger, and that means it's worth playing, and so on and so on. Now, long term, it may be worth some kind of queuing system where you can be in a map and expressing interest if I want to join the next Royale game. And merely anything like that would immediately cause there to be enough players that we never have problems having games trigger. But for the time being, the intention is to have Royale available as special events. It does take a fair amount of development work to make changes to it. We, as you see, have been quite busy putting stuff in the real game, and we feel that's a good place to improve. So yeah, Royale's probably not going to be enabled on a weekendly basis for a while, but we are running this cool Twitch event with the secret boss spawn stuff that should be interesting, and we'll bring it back for special events in the future.
Cool.
I love Royale. I love playing it. I love casting it. But I did run into the same issue where even like getting my community behind it, it took like 20 minutes to get games started. So I have to concur that the idea of running it at specific times so that everyone's concentrated.
It's impossible to jump into Royale unless you're like
seems like the best approach.
Very familiar with the game, and that's the
a
issue
major
with
campaign
Royale.
rebalance was started with Act 1 last expansion, but not mentioned this time. What's happening with that?
So we had too much homework, so we didn't get time to work on that. Basically, the community gave us a lot of bits and pieces to work on, so we worked on those, and we'll continue with the rebalance later. And it's worth noting that basically what we're doing is getting the monsters to a normalized level of challenge and making sure they have good abilities and that kind of stuff. So it isn't meant to be making the game dramatically harder, just making it more consistent in terms of difficulty. And so the intention is to carry on with Acts 2 through 7 when we get time later.
That's getting really cranky at me because I'm not asking the questions in the order that they want me to ask me. Look, I have that on my question list already. You guys, calm down.
Whoa.
Just wait a
Whoa.
second, okay?
Whoa.
But I'll tell you what, I'll ask it now. People want to know about Ultimatum. Is there any news?
No news at this stage.
There you go, Chat. You happy?
Easy clap.
Okay. Very
Easy
good.
clap,
You
chat.
liked that one.
Destroyed. Will my map device unlocks be available via the guild hideout?
My understanding
map
is
device?
that they will be, but I'm going to wait for people to clarify that. The team are wanting me to spoil that we're intending to bring Ultimatum back to core in 3.17, but I don't know if I want to spoil that, right? We maybe leave that one as a surprise.
I mean, yeah, don't spoil that. Don't mention it. Probably best not to mention it. So people would like to know if the South African servers will be staying because they've been having a great time playing on the test server.
Oh, that's really good to hear. Well, we don't like to turn stuff off arbitrarily, so if it's going well, I'll check with the technical team and have a chat with them. It's kind of sad that the meme dives left us so long, right? Like it's been, the monthly emails about South African servers are finally over, and I just feel like it's the end of an era, right? Like, like my 30s was the period of people complaining about South African servers.
You break your life down in that.
Vex is telling me to behave. Okay, so Reese clarifies that map device crafts you have unlocked can be used at the guild map device, but they are not shared.
All right. Bex has given me the 5 minutes, so let's go quick. Any updates on colorblind support for sockets?
So we have 2 new socket options available. We have small notches, which is smaller than the ones that we demoed in the community post, and we have large patterns. And so you can, by default, you do not see these, because that way, while the non-colorblind users were not complaining about having notches, we decided that we may as well give them, no change if they don't want to change. So by default, no change, and you can turn on small notches for people who just want a hint as to which socket it is, or large patterns
Strippin'
for
can
people who
finally
want to
play
at a
the
glance
game.
be able to see easily which one it is. And I should note, there's this bike shedding feedback with the small notches one, where the blue one has a notch pointing upwards, and that's covered by the link. And everyone who sees it says, you don't realize that you can't see the notch if there's a link going upwards. And it's just the most common thing, as though we haven't thought of that. But we also all notice that, but it doesn't matter, because if there's no notch going left or right, then the notch has to be going up. So those are, anyway. So that was great. But we have these socket colorblind options available, and as we experiment with further colorblindness stuff in the future, we'll put it in those options.
All right, rapid firing. How mobility creep been addressed in builds? Skills that cause you to be rooted in place. I've always felt worse to use than mobile skills or skills with very low action time, due to the nature of needing to stay on the move while fighting monsters.
So what's the question here? Sorry.
I'm
I
a
was
little confused as well, but it sounds like any thoughts on mobility?
We're
And
dropping the
changing
patch
the
notes in a few minutes, so if there are changes there that I'm unaware of, you'll see them in the patch notes, but I don't think it's specifically addressed. We've tried very hard to talk about most of the balance changes and improvements we're making in advance this time.
I love that patch notes are
Alpha's
out.
just been enabled for the alpha testers, so
Ooh,
enjoy that.
very timely.
People will be playing Scourge in 5 minutes.
Ziggy, please show console some love. I'm not a developer. And ask, when will console get bind to move key functionality?
I'll make sure that the console team is aware of that request.
All right, very good. How does elemental overload work?
The patch
with
is out
Varl
for
skills?
alpha.
That's a good question.
Patch notes are out
Right,
now,
I need
though,
my
or
team to
soon.
answer that one, unfortunately. It's not something I know.
Yeah, whether they count as a different skill or not might affect their use with elemental overload. Any PoE2 news, just quickly?
We have nothing more to share on Path of Exile 2. We're waiting until we've got a big, impactful pile of stuff. Probably next year is the next time we'll share a big pile of PoE2 stuff, but
Did you
things are looking
see
real good.
him look at the camera?
Okay,
Awesome.
so
When
Rory
Ziggy asked
clarifies
that
that it does
question?
count as a different skill, yes.
Okay, so it won't gain the damage buff from elemental overload then.
He
Worth
goes,
considering.
"What?
Oof.
Path of Exile 2?
Okay, there's like a bunch of questions about.
Ah!
Is it a telescope behind you, Chris? What is
That
it?
is, it's for astrophotography. And sadly,
Awesome.
I've been so busy with Path of Exile this year that I haven't used it once, right? So I'm one of those people that buys a thing, puts it in the background, and then never touches it. So I'm not an astrophotographer.
Who would do that?
But I will be as soon as
Chris?
things calm down.
Well, maybe you can use it today now that we've gotten some things sorted out. Although, maybe wait until the nighttime, I imagine. Thank you very much for your time, Chris.
Right. Thanks,
And
man. I appreciate it. And everyone have a great time in Scourge. It's going to be a good one.
see you all later.
Thanks.
How do they wrap this up? They gotta go. There you go. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Who would put stuff behind them and then never touch it, chat? Couldn't be me. Anyways, hey, that league looks pretty good. I'm excited for that league. All of the I have realized now that my interest in Path of Exile has less to do with the league and more to do with the build that I play in said league. So I really need to make sure that I choose a fun build. Alternatively, I need to make sure that I choose a bad build so that we don't stream PoE and instead stream something that people will watch, like Guardians of the Galaxy or Darkest Dungeon 2 early access on the 28th. So we'll see what happens. You know, you can never really know what's going to happen here on the stream. You never know. You never know. It gets a little wild. Gets a little wild. Maybe we'll just play Cyclone. No. Wasn't there a new totem build last league, chat? I think there was a new totem build, I think. And it was like really good, if I recall, as well. It's getting nerfed? What? They already said it got nerfed? Well, I mean, we'll know in like a minute, right? Like, won't we know? I'm just going to Google totem. We'll see what happens. Patch notes are up. They're live, apparently. How do I get to them? I'm just going to go over there and Google totems. Did they tweet them out? God damn it, the website's down. Going to Twitter. Where are the patch notes? They're up. Website's down. They can't, I mean, like, what are they doing here, chat? They can't even have a website. They can't even run a website. It's part of the, you know, I think right now what they're experiencing is what happens when you have probably 300,000 people watching on Twitch. Oh my God, that's so many fucking patch notes. All right, let's bump that up to 250. We're going to go Control F, totem. 14. Oh, fuck. Problem. Using totems to cast Forbidden Right gets around the threat of self-damage on Forbidden Right, making it much more efficient than the skill in other ways, still benefiting from high life-based damage. Solution. Change the way totems mitigate damage so that they have much less total health, but take significantly less damage from enemy hits and damage over time, more than compensating for the health loss in normal situations. Adjust some sources of totem life and totem chaos resistance. Rebalance Dark Pact to partially offset the changes to totem life when used on totems, while buffing the skills for casting yourself. Also rebalance the unique Torch Choke step to account for the life and reduction on totems. Those are all the change on totems. Well, not playing that build, boys. We'll go back to the drawing board sometime next week. It is really exciting, though, the fact that, the fact that these totems are now done. These patch notes are now done and out there so we can get all these builds. And I can have builds to choose from, not just on Friday morning. So we'll see. Hopefully get that POB updated over the weekend, and we can get some proper builds starting like early next week. Get those build videos. And then we'll choose our build on Friday morning with very little consideration. So we'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching. This has been a fun little PoE reveal. Shout out to Cohh for joining us early on in the video. And if you like what you watch, feel free to drop a follow on the channel here if you're watching live. Or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching over there on the old YouTube channels. For now, I'm out of here.